Luis is okay.
Estou iniciando o stream, então.
Okay, so hello everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So today we are resuming our seminars activity. So I would like to welcome all of you to the Heliophysics and Space Geophysics seminars. This series of seminars is promoted by the Brazilian National Institute for Space Research, INPE. And this activity in particular is being hosted by the Space Geophysics postgraduate program in our institute, and by the Research in Heliophysics project, which is part of the CAPES funding agency program of internationalization. Our guest today is our doctoral student, PhD candidate, Diego Prado Barroso, from INPE, from the Space Geophysics postgraduate program. And Diego is has done his undergraduation in University of São Paulo in geophysics, and later he has done his master's also in geophysics, the same University of São Paulo, precisely in the Institute for Astronomy, Geophysics, and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of São Paulo. And in 2019, he has joined INPE for his doctoral program, this time in space geophysics. So he has moved to geophysics, to space geophysics. And in space geophysics, he has been dedicated in the last few years to solar physics, more precisely in particular. And he has been working under he has been advised by Luis Eduardo Antunes Vieira and by myself. And what he is going to do today is to present a sort of a review talk on the solar atmosphere, characterization, simulations, and models. And it is part of what he has done for his qualification exam, which has been concluded very recently. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Diego. Diego, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Professor Allison. Thank you all that are you watching this presentation. I appreciate really this opportunity. And well, as the Professor Allison told, I just will talk briefly the subject about waves in solar atmosphere, characterizations, simulations, and models. Well, I should start explaining how the sun is structured in all his way, but our focus will be in the external structures, which mean the photosphere, the chromosphere, and the corona. But it's important to notice that all these events that occur in the atmosphere, in the solar atmosphere, of course, they are related to how the energy flows through the internal structures, the generating energy by the core, and the conductive and radiative zone that propagates this energy through through the surface and then through the atmosphere. Well, the external structures are made by these three layers, we can say layers, that is the photosphere, like it's considered the sun surface by this opacity. It's 500 kilometers thick. And we have, as we see in this image, dynamic structures like sunspots, faculas, and this granulation spread all around the surface by the photosphere. These granulations are formed by cells, convection cells, the top of the convection cells that flows the heat and the energy from the internal structures. Above the photosphere, we have the chromosphere, and there we will see ahead that the temperature increases a lot. Suddenly, we have a very increasing measures of the temperature in this layer, and the chromosphere It's 3,000 to 5,000 thick, and also have some dynamics structures like filaments, prominence, solar flares, and loops. And above the chromosphere and spreading all around the solar system, we have the corona, uh, where we have millions of kilometers. The size of the corona. The corona, we can say that it's formed by all the plasma that surrounds the sun and are trapped in the magnetic field, the strong magnetic field generated by the solar dynamo. And also we have dynamics structures like solar winds, coronal holes, and coronal mass ejections. Between the chromosphere and the corona, we have quite singular transition zone that it's very interesting, because there in a very thin layer we have a sudden temperature increase from thousands kelvins to millions of kelvins. We see that in this curve that here the zero, it's the sun surface. It's a one-dimension model that we have the temperature about 4,000, 5,000 Kelvin. Then we enter in the chromosphere, and between the high chromosphere, the upper chromosphere, and the low corona, we have this sudden increase of the temperature, and that we call the transition region. And this heating, the solar atmosphere heating, it is still a mystery in heliophysics. In the last decades, a lot of scientists dedicate their works to understand or trying to explain this phenomena, and different mechanisms have been proposed. One of them are the magnetic reconnections, that are just a new shape of the magnetic field, uh, of the lines of the magnetic field in these regions. When they, as this animation shows, when they are uh, bound together, they can release a very large quantity of energy and heat. But as we see that there, it's just it's an event. It's not that constant to maintain the temperature, the high increased temperature that we see in the transition zone. So it explains, but not and totally, this mystery of the atmosphere heating, the solar atmosphere heating. Another mechanism that is still have been studied is the wave in the solar atmosphere. Waves can propagate and can release the energy in this region, facilitating the collaborating the heating in the transition zone. And these waves are different natures. They can be created, or they can be explained by different equations, or nature by one of them of the MHT theory. We can have different types of these waves. As one of these, I listed some of the waves that we can study in the MHT theory, and they are the acoustic waves, that it's almost compressional behavior. As the image shows here, it's just the message, the energy propagating in compression and expanding zones through a direction. Another kind of wave is the Alphen waves. They have a magnetic component, and they are like they are tensions on the line fields of the magnetic field. And we have the acoustic wave, this compressional behavior can be coupled with another kinds of waves. So if we have the coupling of acoustic waves and Alfvén waves, we have a wave that it's called magnetoacoustic. And we have another types of waves like gravity acoustic waves as well. So they can make couplings between them. Shock waves are still observed in the atmosphere, in the solar atmosphere, and they are caused by discontinuities in physics parameters, like a sudden increase of intensity of pressure or heat, or in a release, a burst of energy. And we still have gravity waves that they have a gravitational component in his formation. Obviously, this image is not of the surface of the sun, but we also have gravity waves in our atmosphere, but it's similar, this behavior. It's just a balance where we have the internal pressure against the gravity pressure, and we can have an oscillation in caused by the gravity. And in non-uniform media, we also have kink and sausage waves. They are waves that are related to non-uniform media, which means when we have, for example, interfaces in between two medias, different medias, and or we have some simplified geometry like planks or cylinders. In the surface, in the interface of these structures, we can also observe this kind of wave. The MHD theory, it's the magneto-hydrodynamic theory. It's a theoretical approach largely used in the simulations and models that try to explain and understand the solar atmosphere and solar processes. But it's important to consider that the MHD theory is just an approach that considers the macro behavior of the fluid. It's not that related with the particles, single particles. It's analyzed in a macro vision. The MHD theory explains very well the wave propagation in uniform media, and can explain as well wave propagation in non-uniform media, but with some simplified geometry, and that could not be all the necessary to explain the complexity and dynamism of the solar atmosphere. We know that the solar is a very, very dynamic and energetic system. So we can expect just an approach, but not the 100% of truly representation of these models that use that MHD theory. Well, and that dynamism of the solar atmosphere, it's well represented in this picture. Was made in the thesis of Jafar Zadeh, the researcher that works in this field, and this is some of structures of the low atmosphere, the low solar atmosphere. We can have tiny structures like tubular structures with high magnetic field. We can also see the granulation that I showed before. We can also have shock waves oh, I mean, we have a lot of kind of structures in a large scale of time and space that can, it's very difficult to represent all of that in just one approach. It's a very, very rich environment. So how can we detect the waves in the solar atmosphere? Well, it's important. There are some important parameters that we can have to track and detect these waves. They are in a, if we are observing the sun, the chromosphere or the photosphere, we need these four key parameters: the temporal resolution, which means the cadence that we receive the data, the space resolutions. As I showed before, we have some different kinds of structures. So we have tiny structures or very large structures. So the space resolutions need to be appropriated to that resolution, to that form, sorry. We can also have the multi-line observation. If we are trying to detect waves, we need to know how it propagates in layers above, upwarding or downwarding. So the multi-line observation, as this image shows, we can see different layers and track the wave or the structure or the oscillation in different heights. And of course, the instrumental accuracy. We need to have an instrumental that the proportion of signal and error, it should be acceptable. All right. Um, so this is just an example that how we can relate and join the dots of different layers. So this is an image of the photosphere, the surface of the sun, and this is an image of the chromosphere. And we can see here a dot that could be related in these two layers. And by this tracking, we can detect and evolve our studies in solar waves, in the waves in the solar atmosphere. So the study of waves in the solar atmosphere with simulations can work with models to characterize the environment. We can also extrapolate some data from observed data. We can also have a frequency analysis of simulated oscillatory processes, or compare synthetic data obtained from models and simulations with the observed data. And after this comparison, we can make our conclusions. So in these following slides, I will show some of these waves that I talked about, not just the theory, but how we can see and how we can do the studies with them. So this is a study made by Fleck et al. In 2020. They tried to analyze acoustic gravity waves propagation in 4 different codes for modeling. These 4 codes are Mancha-3D, Bifrost, Milram, and Cobalt. And he made a comparison of these 4 models. And these 4 models, they are made by different scientists and for different purposes. So we can see that Mancha 3D, it was a model, was a code developed to study sunspots. For example, cobalt did not consider the magnetic field of the environment. So every model can have the proper characteristics. So what Fleck understood in this study that about acoustic gravity waves, we have discrepancies in high frequencies up to 2 orders of magnitude in the wave power, which means the code that you use on your simulation, on your model, needs to be uh, uh, needs to be appropriated to the study that you have. Another model, and that was a numerical model for a magnetic structure and thermal structure of the solar atmosphere, made by Hanstein and Carson back to 2009. It's a tree model of the solar atmosphere. Well, there's a lot of kind of model. This is the numerical model, but we have 3D models made by analytical processes, semi-empirical processes, forward modeling, and in this case we have the numerical modeling, and they they have this structure, these structures modeled, and also they just saw that for example, the corona was cooling down after the time was passing by. So this is an example, another example that we can make the models, but it's a model for all the solar atmosphere from the photosphere to the corona. So it's a large scale model, and don't consider the little structures. So this environment is complex, and it's very difficult to reproduce that in all the scale, consider all the scales. And another kind of using simulations and models in the solar atmosphere, it's extrapolate the magnetic field lines. This was a study made by Wiegelmann et al. In 2014. It extrapolates the field lines from a photospherical data. So the scientists took an image of the photosphere, and by the Stokes parameters, they developed and extrapolated these lines, how they will evolve upward. Another study another kind of this study was made by Sich et al. In 2020, and also it's an extrapolation of the magnetic fields. But this study just do not consider just the image of the photosphere, but different layers. We can see here it's images from different wavelengths, which means different highs of the solar atmosphere, and making analyzing the Stokes parameters of each figure. The scientists could extrapolate the magnetic field, and then we have the result here that we can characterize the magnetic field in a region with closed lines and open lines that goes upward. And this characterization of the environment of these structures in the solar atmosphere is very important, because how the wave will behave in this kind of environment, which means if you have different properties, physical properties in the environment, the wave will propagate in a different manner. So this is a study of Jeffard Dazet of 2020, a recent study that he detects oscillations of the known oscillations of 3 and 5 minutes. They have this frequency of between 3 and 4 millihertz, and it's a observed oscillation was detected in a lot of studies. And it's like a background oscillation. Our sun is ringing in these frequencies, and but what he noted that is in some area that we have not a huge magnetic field, we can detect these frequencies better than we have a huge magnetic field like the situation B and C. You can see these structures here, and they are very intense. They have very intense magnetic field, and the extrapolate field lines, they cover the point of view. So, like a canopy, they make a very different structure under that. So in doing the transforms, fast Fourier transform or Lobscar transform, the oscillations of 3 and 5 minutes are not detected. Well, another example of setting parameters of a simulation, this is an example of the resolution as the resolution parameter. This is a simulation made from the Bifrost code, which uses the magnetohydrodynamics theory equations. Sorry, and this is the same simulation, but with different resolutions. So we have here a good resolution of the simulation, and we have here on the right resolution that it's almost the same resolution that we have observing from ALMA. ALMA, it's an observatory placed in the Atacama Desert north of Chile, and they adapt we have the power in the simulation to set up what parameters we will have to compare with the observed data. And so adequating the resolution of the simulation, we can now do an analysis of this image. And Jafar Zadeh made this analysis, and also he detected the 3 minutes oscillation in 12% of the field of view. This is a map of the dominant periods in this simulated environment that it's very, it looks like very close to the observed data. So in this is another example that how we can detect and characterize these waves. Another example of an observed data compared to a simulation is in tiny structures in the photosphere, in tubular structures of the photosphere. It was observed sudden brightness, which this is the letter C here, this image. It's the observed data. In less than 30 seconds, we have a peak temperature, and then the temperature cools down. And this was a signature. It was supposed that could be a signature of a shock wave, a discontinuity on the brightness temperature. And the letter A and B here, they are simulated processes that, well, they represent very good, in a very good way, this curve that was observed. So we can also assume that in this tiny tubular structures on the photosphere, we can detect some shock waves produced by tiny structures. Um, uh, Talking about these tubular structures as well, we have the propagating sausage wave along this flux tube and kink wave as well. They are detected by this expanse and compressional behavior through the layers and in a vision from above. So this can be detected by in a very good resolution. Also, we have the kink wave, which if is observed from above, we see this swing uh, of high concentration and less concentration that oscillates in the edge of the tubular structure. Kink oscillations, as observed as well in loops. Now we are talking in a large structure, in loops, in coronal loops, that if we have an influence of very energetic phenomena next to that, like a flare or uh, another energetic event, the loop can oscillate in a kink oscillation as well. Well, still talking about the sausage mode, the sausage wave mode, they are detected in some structures in pores in the photosphere. This study was made by Gilchrist Miller in 2020. She analyzed these five pores that are centered here. He made a line and numbered these pores 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make an inversion based on the Stokes parameters of this image. And well, briefly talking about his amazing study, he detected a variation on the velocity and the Doppler velocity, which means we have here um, a compressional wave, but also he inverted the physics parameters of the environment as well. So he detected the strong magnetic field here in this image. We have the field inclination. It's a very verticalized field, and so he made the measurements of the magnetic field, the temperature, and the density of the particles in these five pores. And the conclusion was that there is a sausage wave mode, but related to the acoustic and magnetic wave. So a magnetoacoustic wave. This is a very important image of her study. These five pores are related here, and we have the energy flux decreases when we go upward, which means energy are being dissipated in these tubes, in these pores. Well, the another example of wave simulations. This is in a large scale. Now we are talking about sunspot. One of the four codes that I talked before was the Mancha 3D. That, as I said, it's especially made for studying sunspot. Was made by Philippe et al. In 2018, and he could detect he could model the acoustic flux and magnetic flux uh, from the edge of a sunspot. In simulation, this image here, it's a simulation of how this flux propagates through the sunspot in a time of 820 seconds. And this behavior was observed as well in another studies of, of these sunspots. Well, there are many other examples that we can uh, talk about, but as I said, this is just a scratch in the surface of the subject. Almost the all the totally the of these studies that I get was from VALSA team. It's the waves in the lower solar atmosphere. It's an international team of scientists that make studies on this area. And just to end in my presentation, we can conclude or consider that the coronal heating still goes on without your full understanding. It's a very complex processes that we are making advances, but there is more work to do. We have studies in the solar atmosphere need we have sorry wave studies in solar atmosphere need a series of key parameters to obtain data and its quality. To do good studies, we need to have good data, so the key parameters need to be considered. Although the MHD equations allow only an approximation of the nature of the physical phenomena related to the oscillatory processes of the solar atmosphere, they bring an important information about the environment at different scales and a great understanding of this complex and dynamic system. And finally, the study of waves in the solar atmosphere doesn't have to be restricted only to observations. We can I guess we need to have simulations that can allow us as an alternative to approach the understanding and the and characterizing this environment and these processes. Well, these were my study, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diego. Was very good. If you don't mind, we can proceed with the questions. Are you
Yes,
okay with
sure.
that? Okay. So
Sure.
let's begin. We have a first question from your colleague Abimael Barbosa. He's asking, through what equipments can we detect these waves?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Well, we have a lot of different instruments that can detect these waves. As I said in an example, we have an observatory in the Atacama Desert in Chile. That it's a observatory here in our planet, in our surface, that can make very good measurements in some structures of the surface of this in the surface of the sun. But as well, we can have like telescopes, spatial telescopes, or satellites that can also have this measure. In this decade, for example, we have two missions that are going to the Sun, the Parker Solar Probe, and the Solar Orbiter. And I really are expecting that they will contribute in this field of the science.
Okay, thanks. So Abimael, if you want to make any addition, you just let me know, okay? So I'll proceed with the next question from Randall Vargas, another colleague. His first question is from the MHD theory. You get three solutions after solving the dispersion relation, the fast, slow, and alpha and wave mode. Did you find all of them in your simulations?
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Randall. We do have these three solutions of the three solutions of the MHD theory of the alpha wave. Sorry, and well, if I remember, these three propagating modes, they are related to the how the wave are propagating, in which direction, and which direction the line field is. So I think if you are trying to modulate that, you need to consider how you configure your magnetic field and how you configure your environment. So then you can, I guess, focus in which type of wave. So if these studies, some of these studies that I presented, they quote some of these they have they make an explanation of some of these waves, but as I said, that depends of what environment are modeling and what on how the physical parameters are setting up.
Okay, the next question, I think he's referring to a specific diagram. Can you find the FFT diagram that you showed?
Sure.
Randall, are you having microphone? Would you like to ask your own question?
Yeah, Professor, I'm here.
Go on.
Okay.
You are asking whether he's what's the explanation for the 5 Hertz band there, and whether he used Lomskargol, right? Is that it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, I'm reading the question I didn't get yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wants to know about the 5 Hertz.
Yeah, it was not visible here, right? In this diagram. Yeah, the wave of 3 and 5 minutes that oscillates in this in the 3 to 5 millihertz. They are as we can see, this data was get from observed data in this field of view, and well, in this case, we just have the 3 minutes behavior detected, but not the 5 minute represented in his totality, as if I can say that. But we also have the little peak here. I mean, I don't know if I answered the question, but I guess that depends on the quality of the data that you're observing.
Diego, in this specific case, the images, which are the source of the study from Jafar Zadeh, Jafar Dazeh, yeah, is where are these images taken from?
They're taken from the. If you want, I can open the article here, but it's from this. This is study here. Waves in the lower atmosphere, particularly from ALMA. Yeah.
Okay, but the images are probably from one of the instruments, one other solar telescope, I think, right?
Yeah, it seems to be HMI, no?
HMI from STO probably, or. Now, I was wondering about the second part of the question about the Lomskargol transform, that you normally use Lomskargol when you have a non-continuous time series. So and I was just wondering whether this, when it's a ground-based observation, then you might be using a longer time series that requires several days, and then you have, because people from the upper atmosphere, they do that a lot. They use several days, but they observe only during the nights, so they have this several gaps in the data. So the Lomskargol technique handles that better. So I was wondering whether this was one similar case.
But even from space, sometimes we may have gaps.
Yeah. So this is an interesting technique for analyzing periodicities when you have gaps in the data. So many people from upper atmosphere to solar physics or all other areas, they use a lot this technique.
About the physical mean, I think that I have not read this paper, but it seems that the magnetic field suppresses the convection or the motion of the plasma, no? So it may suppress the oscillations that we see otherwise in regions with a small magnetic field intensity. It seems to be the one's belief.
Is there any other question? If anyone would like to ask their own questions, you are most welcome to do it. So as you have seen, this was one of the subjects that Diego developed in his qualification exam recently, and then we took this opportunity to ask him to present this seminar today. And I have just sent an email for all the students and inviting them to present similar seminars, not just those who finished the qualification exam, but also, for example, those who have returned from the stages abroad, or anyone who is willing to present a seminar is most welcome. So just let me know. I don't know, Luis, you have any comment or question?
No, it was a very nice seminar. I think that the next step you are planning to present a proposal.
Yes, that's it.
And it's the same to our students. No, it's very nice to get some feedback from the colleagues. So it's a
yes, another thing that we have spoken about is that advisors, they don't participate in the qualification exam. So in particular, this presentation from Diego, myself and Luis have not seen it before. So it's a good opportunity that the student shares with the advisor his work also to present a seminar. Before it was an open exam, now it's closed and the supervisors, they don't participate. So it's good to hear the progress of the students. It's a good thing. So we encourage all of you and to volunteer for presenting the seminar. Okay, so if there are no more questions or comments from the audience, I would like, on behalf of the Space Geophysics postgraduate program and on the Research in Heliophysics research project from the CAPES Internationalization Program at INPE, I'd like to thank Diego Prado Barroso, our PhD candidate, for this very interesting presentation, and all of you for the audience. Okay, so thank you very much. Stay tuned. We will inform you when we have the next seminar. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Diego. Bye.